which number class this is and all that hoo-ha?
Yes, thank you for reminding me. This is session number 37 of Discovering the Essence of Nonviolent Communication and Open-Hearted Practice Group.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
And it's like November the 18th already.
And we've been doing this for much longer than that.
Well, we started this particular series in March.
Yeah. Okay.
37 weeks ago,
but years ago
4
we
years ago.
started doing this.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Glad to see you all here. And this, by the way, there's lots of practice today in pairs. So this would be a good day to maybe practice in your birth language if you would like. And so if you want to put your language next to your name when we do the paired work, we can split you up and put you in those small groups.
It gives you an opportunity to have a little more depth. I've heard that from other people who English is not their main language, that there's a deeper level that sometimes you go to when you're with somebody and speaking in your own language. So that's your option right now. And even if you speak in both languages, if you look around and see someone who speaks a language that you speak as well, you might want to support them by joining that group or that person.
Yeah, today is called Dynamic Dialogue with NVC. It's what we were going to do last week before the internet decided to break for us. To cover, we're literally at the last minute, 15 minutes before the meeting.
Yeah.
I reached out to Eric and he graciously was able to say yes.
Yeah, they just sometimes just shut down the electricity on our island and they're doing something and we don't always know ahead of time. Just all of a sudden, wow.
Windy storm last week.
Oh, was that what it was?
Yeah.
Windy storm.
So, little update on my health. 2 weeks from today, I'll be having surgery.
Finally!
And we had a very encouraging meeting with the surgeon last Friday. And he said some very sweet things, including he used the D word, deserve, but he said, I don't know of anybody who deserves the surgery more than you. And that reflects the long journey it's been for us to figure out what the cause of my symptoms are and to go through the tests and all that.
It has been a long, arduous path. I don't know how much we've mentioned it here, but
Too much, probably.
Yeah, all the
we're great at oversharing.
And the day that the doctor said, okay, we're going to have surgery, I woke up in this really different space where I got out of bed and I just stood there and said, okay, this isn't going to happen. And I just tried to adjust. I actually feel tears in my eyes as I even remember it. It's like I gave up. I was, stop hoping. It's just been so long. And that day he called and said, we're going to do the surgery, which I cried about too, just out of, just relief. Yeah. It was a heavy ride. And we're still not done, but we're walking on the path now for completion, which is, thank goodness.
Yeah, the other sweet thing that he said was something like being a good surgeon. He said, I try to be dispassionate with my patients, but I like you and I want this to work for you.
Which is really nice to hear too. Nice to hear that he has his own commitments to Jim's well-being.
Yeah. So that's the health update, and how that impacts you is next week will be our last class with you until next year. because my surgery will be the following Monday. And then it'll take me about, 4 or 5 weeks to come back to total well-being, better than I am now. Yeah, Lord willing.
Yeah, he'll be coughing less. You might notice how he pauses and puts his hand over his mouth because he coughs.
Yeah.
It's a lot for you to be saying this. Maybe I could say some of it for you.
Yeah. And it's acid reflux for those of you who are curious. It's not a lung thing. It's acid reflux. And one of these tests that I did, the acid levels in my throat, which are stimulating the cough, were off the charts. So it's very clear why I've been having this symptom. So anyway, I'm grateful, feeling full of gratitude, which will be our class next week. We'll be focusing on gratitude in honor of American Thanksgiving. And today I'm going to do the least amount of talking as possible.
Comes the Zoom.
Any minute now.
Put your seatbelts on. Kind of a trickle Zoom today.
Yeah.
Here they come.
Whee! Wow.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for checking in with each other. And this is the opportunity to check in with the rest of us. If there's anything that anybody needs to say before we move into practice with each other, just raise your hand if there's anything that you would like to share. Yeah, Auntie.
I would just like to declare from my perspective that the super bloom season has arrived. That whenever the muck gets really thick, that's really great fertilizer for the lotus. So I'm really looking forward to the challenges of the present moment and how that is bringing about even deeper change inside of me. Thank you.
Thank you. Juliana?
Yeah, so there is a lot of sadness just now. Just hearing about the pain, Jim, that you are in, and yeah, and that we are all with you as you go through this operation. Yeah, and just wanting to know that we are with you at every minute in spirit. And Jori, you also. I just want to hold you and tell you that
Thank you.
everything. God is with you. The Most High Universe is with you. Yeah. And you, Jim, are the beloved child of the universe, of the Most High Universe. Yeah.
Thanks, Juliana.
Thank you, Juliana.
Appreciate your support.
Yeah. I'm so really glad we have light at the end of the tunnel. It's been a long tunnel.
By the way, even though Jory and I won't be here after next week, the class will continue until just before Christmas. We're lining up some guest trainers for you.
Hey,
So.
get some novelty.
Anybody else want to share? Yeah, go ahead, Sue.
I was sharing in the group also, and now also the moment you say we won't be there, I mean, there is so much of sadness and
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time together. We'll be taking a break there. It's, yeah.
I mean, I hardly attend the session. Uh, I don't know what connection I have with this. I mean, it's so much deep. Uh, yeah. So, and I, uh, I just love the energy of both of you. And in spite of having you're going through such pain, still you are here. Still, you are choosing to be there next week is really amazing. And yeah, like I am very choosy while getting some learning from the trainer. So if I some another facilitator, I judge so much. The way he's speaking, the way he's laughing, the way he's so many things. But yeah, I like as you said, keeping our heart open and see what comes up. So what I'll do is I'll enter the class, I'll dance with the judgments, and then I'll decide whether to stay or go back.
That's why we call it a practice group. That's exactly the assignment.
Yep.
So I really wish we see each other very soon. But more than this session and all, I really wish both of you all the strength and all. I mean, all this community's love is with you, especially mine. And yeah, we'll see what happens. You know, we don't know future. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sue. And yes, we have a whole community here. And that's a really beautiful thing. Even as we walk down the path to the hospital and knowing that there's community here with us. So I thank you all for that support. And you too, Sue.
Rob?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, I just feel a lot of gratitude right now that to see you both again, and yeah, this incredible open-hearted space, over the years that you've provided, and yeah, that I just happened by chance felt so lonely. I signed on today, and yeah, your smiling face here, Jim, and so I mean, do you have a pain level right now, like of 3, or out of no, you don't have a pain level.
Oh.
That's the lucky thing about this particular syndrome. I
Amazing.
don't really have pain, and
Oh.
it's just the cough. So it's more emotional pain,
And also the
Mm.
breathing sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get out of breath and frustrated,
Mhm.
but
Oh,
no physical
okay.
pain, thank God.
Oh, right. Oh, okay. Yay. All right. Well, that
Yeah.
makes, but yeah, and you guys will take your break. I guess you'll be here next week, but I'm so glad to be here today. What gratitude.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you're here too, Rob. It's
Thank
good to
you,
see you
Rob.
again. I
Yeah,
missed
good
you
to
this
see
year.
you. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody waiting to be last? You want to go now?
Well, lower his hand.
Mhm.
Oh, there
Okay,
you go.
Oliver.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Oliver. There's a lot of gratitude and inspiration alive inside of me. This is a new space for me, but I feel completely at home. And I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate you.
I'm glad you found us,
Thank you.
Oliver.
Yeah.
Welcome. And that goes for all of you. Of course, we're really glad that you're all here, especially if you're here for the first time. I'm not sure exactly how people discover us, but I'm really glad that it happens and that you're here today.
Yeah, this is really an important expression in my life too, to be able to meet and to feel that sense of community and hope that we can really affect the quality of life for not just ourselves, but for all the people around us. So thank you, thank you, thank you for the inspiration and the companionship.
Okay. And I call your attention to the chat, which we can utilize throughout the call if you'd like. And Sophia has written something there. I usually read those things, but these days I don't. Do you want to try to read
You
that?
want me to
Julie?
read that? Okay. Our region is a cold area where there have been many hardships in the past for families trying to grow crops and make a living. There is a fear that if you touch your emotions, you won't be able to survive. There is a habit of using your thoughts when you become aware of your emotions. Whoops, where'd it go?
Here.
Emotions. It is a habit to become.
It's not a habit.
Oh, it's not a habit to become aware of your emotions. Could you
Mhm.
I did, thank you. It is not a habit to become aware of your emotions and then continue to stay in your heart. It may be scary to, quote, continue to stay in your heart, unquote. I am thinking about what I could do to be able to think that I want to think that I want to do that. Have hope and possibility.
Mhm.
Oh, sweet.
Thanks, Sophia.
Yeah, Sophia. And then Leslie, Jim and Jori, you both have such a gentle, open, kind-hearted presence. It is very special doing these classes with you. May your surgery go smoothly. Blessings.
Thank you.
You could probably hear I'm about to drop my tears here down. I'm just so really touched by the sense of care that I have, just even looking at your faces right now. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So we're going to move into our first practice here, which is going to involve watching a video. And I'll stop the video a couple of times during the video. This is a video that I discovered several years ago, and I thought it would be fun to share it with you because it really stimulates the kind of things that people in conflict might talk about. And so this first one is an excerpt, a portion of a class that's publicly available on the internet from Harvard University. So we all get to go to Harvard for the next 10 minutes with
See what we learn.
with the philosopher Michael Sandel, or Sandel, I'm not so sure how he
I think
pronounces
it's
his name.
Sandel.
Anyway, and so he's going to be talking about a kind of a famous problem in philosophy, and the idea is that it'll set up our first chance to practice with each other in a speaking and listening dialogue. So I'll play the video for you.
Is that blocking people?
No,
Okay.
let's see here. Share sound and optimize. Okay.
And share. Did you hit the share button? That was on the bottom. I didn't see.
I did.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Whoops.
This is a course about justice, and we begin with a story. Suppose you're the driver of a trolley car, and your trolley car is hurtling down the track at 60 miles an hour.
Hang on just a second.
At the end of the track, you notice 5 workers working on it.
Tell myself you guys are not seeing it yet. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So,
Thanks. Let's see.
don't give me any advice for just a second. Don't give me any advice for just a second. Take me just a second to move to a different browser because I think it's a problem with the browser.
Can you see it now?
Not yet, Joy, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet. I'm gonna shut this so I don't get confused when I share the screen. Okay. Hang on one more second. Sorry about the technical difficulties here. Okay. Oops, one more check just to make sure that still got those names checked. Okay. Okay. And here we go. Huh. Save.
What's going on here? There's a,
Joy, don't,
this is right here.
I know, that's a bit. Totally possible. Okay.
When you were playing it earlier, the video went off, but it sounded clear. So if
Okay.
there isn't something we need to see, maybe that just hearing it's enough.
Yeah, we could. Do you see it now? Do you see a YouTube screen?
Yes.
Okay, maybe it's when I try to go to full screen, it's something screws up. So I'll just leave it off full screen.
This is a course about justice, and we begin with a story. Suppose you're the driver of a trolley car, and your trolley car is hurtling down the track at 60 miles an hour. And at the end of the track, you notice 5 workers working on the track. You try to stop, but you can't. Your brakes don't work. You feel desperate because you know that if you crash into these 5 workers, they will all die. Let's assume you know that for sure. And so you feel helpless until you notice that there is, off to the right, a side track. And at the end of that track, there's one worker working on the track. Your steering wheel works, so you can turn the trolley car, if you want to, onto the side track, killing the one, but sparing the 5. Here's our first question. What's the right thing to do? What would you do? Let's take a poll. How many would turn the trolley car onto the side track? Raise your hands. How many wouldn't? How many would go straight ahead? Keep your hands up, those of you who would go straight ahead. A handful of people would. The vast majority would turn. Let's hear first. Now we need to begin to investigate the reasons why you think it's the right thing to do. Let's begin with those in the majority who would turn to go onto the side track. Why would you do it? What would be your reason? Who's willing to volunteer a reason? Go ahead, stand up.
Because it can't be right to kill 5 people when you can only kill 1 person instead.
It wouldn't be right to kill 5 if you could kill 1 person instead. That's a good reason. That's a good reason. Who else? Does everybody agree with that reason? Go ahead.
Well, I was thinking it was the same reason on 9/11. We regard the people who flew the plane into the Pennsylvania field as heroes because they chose to kill the people in the plane and not kill more people in big buildings.
So the principle there was the same on 9/11. It's a tragic circumstance, but better to kill 1 and so that 5 can live. Is that the reason most of you had, those of you who would turn? Yes? Let's hear now from those in the minority, those who wouldn't turn. Yes?
Well, I think that's the same type of mentality that justifies genocide and totalitarianism. In order to save one type of race, you wipe out the other.
So what would you do in this case? You would, to avoid the horrors of genocide, you would crash into the 5 and kill them?
Presumably, yes.
You,
yeah.
Okay, who else? It's a brave answer. Thank you. Let's consider another trolley car case and see whether those of you in the majority want to adhere to the principle, better that one should die so that 5 should live. This time you're not the driver of the trolley car, you're an onlooker. You're standing on a bridge overlooking a trolley car track. And down the track comes a trolley car. At the end of the track are 5 workers. The brakes don't work. The trolley car is about to careen into the 5 and kill them. And now, you're not the driver. You really feel helpless until you notice, standing next to you, leaning over the bridge, is a very fat man. And you could give him a shove. He would fall over the bridge, onto the track, right in the way of the trolley car. He would die, but he would spare the 5. Now, how many would push the fat man over the bridge? Raise your hand. How many wouldn't? Most people wouldn't. Here's the obvious question. What became of the principle? Better to save 5 lives even if it means sacrificing 1. What became of the principle that almost everyone endorsed in the first case? I need to hear from someone who was in the majority in both cases. How do you explain the difference between the two? Yes.
The second one, I guess, involves an active choice of pushing the person down, which I guess that person himself would otherwise not have been involved in this situation at all. And so to choose on his behalf, I guess, to involve him in something that he otherwise would have escaped is, I guess, more than what you have in the first case, where the 3 parties, the driver and the 2 sets of workers, are already, I guess, in the situation.
But the guy working, the one on the track off to the side, he didn't choose to sacrifice his life any more than the fat man did he?
That's true, but he was on the tracks. And you...
This guy was on the bridge. Go ahead, you can come back if you want. All right, it's a hard question. All right, you did well. You did very well. It's a hard question. Who else can find a way of reconciling the reaction of the majority in these 2 cases? Yes.
Well, I guess in the first case where you have the 1 worker and the 5, it's choice between those 2, and you have to make a certain choice, and people are going to die because of the trolley car, not necessarily because of your direct actions. The trolley car is a runaway thing, and you're making a split-second choice, whereas pushing the fat man over is an actual act of murder on your part. You have control over that, whereas you may not have control over the trolley car. So I think it's a slightly different situation.
All right, who has a reply? No, that's good. Who has a way? Who wants to reply? Is that a way out of this?
I don't think that's a very good reason, because you choose to, it's either way you have to choose who dies, because you either choose to turn and kill the person, which is an active conscious thought to turn, or you choose to push the fat man over, which is also an active conscious action. So either way you're making a choice.
Do you want to reply?
Well, I'm not really sure that that's the case. It just still seems kind of different, the act of actually pushing someone over onto the tracks and killing him. You are actually killing him yourself.
You're pushing him with your own hands.
You're pushing him. And that's
Right.
different than steering something that is going to cause death into another. You know, it doesn't
good.
really sound right saying it now.
No, it's good.
But I'm up here.
It's good. What's your name?
Andrew.
Andrew, let me ask you this question, Andrew.
Yes.
Suppose, standing on the bridge next to the fat man, I didn't have to push him. Suppose he were standing over a trap door that I could open by turning a steering wheel like that. Would you turn?
For some reason, that still just seems more wrong.
Right?
I mean, maybe if you accidentally like leaned into the steering wheel or something like that. But, or say that the car is hurtling towards a switch that will drop the trap. Then I could agree with that.
Fair enough. It still seems wrong in a way that it doesn't seem wrong in the first case to turn, you say.
And in another way, I mean, in the first situation, you're involved directly with the situation. In the second one, you're an onlooker as well.
All right.
So you have the choice of becoming involved or not by pushing the fat band.
Let's forget for.
Okay, so that's the trolley problem. And the idea now is you're going to go to small groups of 2 and talk about this problem. How would you handle it? What comes up for you about it? And there'll be there's some I wouldn't call them rules, but there's some suggestions that I'd like to propose about how you handle this exercise. I'm going to call it listening from the heart, speaking from the heart. Exercise 1. The prompt is, how would you handle the trolley problems? There's 2 roles, a speaker and a listener. In some cases, there may be an observer, but there will only be time for 2 people to practice in each of these practices today. So the only place that'll be an observer is if someone's choosing to be an observer. So if you don't want to practice, just put observer next to your name, and Alejandro will put you into a room as just the observer for the speaker and the listener. So if you're the speaker, when it's your turn to speak, you'll have 7 minutes, and you get to speak about whatever comes up for you about the trolley problem dilemma. And if you need some time to think or connect with yourself or give yourself some empathy, well, that makes a lot of sense. This is a tough problem. And so take the time you need to find your words. If you're the listener, the goal in this exercise is silent empathy. Of course, nonverbal feedback is okay, like you can nod your head or blink your eyes or something like that, grunt and groan if that kind of automatically comes up, but don't respond verbally. Just practice presence, being with the other person. After 7 minutes, Alejandra will send a little message in the window and say it's time to switch. Now I'd like to hear from a few people, not so much about your answer to the trolley problem, although I'm interested in that as well, but I'd just like to hear what it was like for you to have the exercise where the goal was just to listen to the speaker and to speak from the heart. Jen?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I noticed that I was not listening from my heart, like partway through started wondering, I wonder why this example, and then I'm like, I am not listening from my heart at all. I am totally in my head, and even my answer wanting to be clever. Yeah. So thank you for
Thank you for your
curious what it was like for others.
Yeah, beautiful. Anybody else want to share what your experience was like of the exercise, especially the second part?
This is louder.
Yeah, Monica.
Okay, do you want to hear my answer?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I rebel from the question that there's only 3 choices, because Marsha Rosenberg said violence is if you don't have creativity, you don't have enough creativity, and then there's violence. So I think there's a whole bunch of other choices, and I talked about all the other choices that there were. So I rebelled from sticking to those 3 choices.
Oh,
cool. What choices did you come up with?
I came up with we live in a world with technology, so I can let I can let them know at the stations and everywhere else to put the civil defense alarm on, to alert all the police, all the fire, who's ever closest to these people, to bring their trucks, anything, and to make a whole bunch of noise, tell them to get out of the way. If that didn't work, I would alert everybody in the trolley car to scream and say, scream, get out of the way. So I
I
did
like
not
the
choose
way
to
you
give
think,
the three
honey.
choices.
Yeah, thanks
I
for
rebelled.
creativity.
Oh, wow. We've
You know
done
me,
this a
Jim, and my
bunch of
students, right?
times, but
You
I've
know me
never
and my
heard such
students.
creativity.
Yeah.
Jim,
I
you know
love
me
it.
and my students where I taught, right? So creativity, right? A whole bunch of choices, not one thing works.
Yeah, because that's the problem with dilemmas. You're actually pointing out the violence within framing any question as either or.
Mhm.
When there's only two choices, then we often get ourselves stuck in these moral dilemmas. And then one of the ways out is to come up with some new possibilities. And Jori even came up with the idea when we were talking of her jumping over the track to stop the train, to sacrifice herself to stop the train rather than sacrifice the man. Schwen?
Hi, Jim. Hi, Jori.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I come in late, about 1 minute before the video finished. So I lost. I do not know what's the video talking about. But I have two feelings. First, because the first word I heard is a genocide. So I started talking about some war. Then I heard some about Chuli card. So I was wondering, curious, what's related to the topic, why the Jim put on this video. The second one, I feel appreciated how the speaker responds to the students, because whenever the students finish talking, he just said, thank you for your courage or appreciate your question. So I really like that part, how much he encouraged those young men and feel have a hope, have a kindness and a compassion in there.
Yeah, thank you, Schwen.
Thank you, Schwen.
Yeah. And Barbara?
Yes, like the first person who spoke here said, I also was more in my head about the problem than just listening from my heart. And the hard part for me in this problem was, what if I thought that somebody I knew was that one person who was going to die?
Wow.
I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
And I would probably go with the 5 anonymous ones that I didn't know. Or what if I was the one person? I don't think I'd want to if I had to sacrifice myself, I don't know that I could do it. Somebody brought up about comparing this to the people who were on the airplane during 9/11. They knew they were not going to live through it no matter what. And they were able to sacrifice themselves. But in that situation with the trolley, I was pretty selfish. Thanks.
Makes sense. It makes sense. What you say really makes a lot of sense. There's some resonance in me. And the what ifs, the possible what ifs, there are lots of variations on this problem. Like, what if you knew that the one had a plan to commit suicide later in the day and after work or something like that? Or what if you knew that the fat man was suicidal? So there's all these what ifs that we don't know that also could influence a rational decision. And what's called for in the problem is not a rational decision. It's like instinctive, intuitional. What do we do And we don't have time to do the math.
Exactly.
Even though the math is exactly the same, we're not doing the math.
Oh, it would be whatever impulse came up in that moment.
Yeah. Juliana?
So I've actually been on these trolley cars because my father was a rail engineer, and one always has a whistle or a red flag or a red light or something to blink. And if nothing of that, I have my voice to scream and shout or take some colored item and wave it frantically, look a little crazy. So at least I could alert the people to jump off the track. And finally, I would jump off when the trolley car was about to crash into a dead end kind of thing. It had no brakes. So I would do something like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheryl?
Yes, my partner and I have recently been connecting around restorative justice in education. And so the question for me was, what does restorative justice look like in this situation? And I think the questions that are asked, instead of what's the right thing to do, what is the harm that's done here, and who has experienced harm and what kind of harm? And in that situation, it's not just a matter of an individual driver and the people on the track. It expands to the community. Like, what was happening? Why are the brakes not working? Was there some kind of maintenance issue that was going on? So the larger community and the larger impact is addressed. And I think that with these questions, it's not just a matter of finding other strategies as well, but it puts the conversation into a different mode. Instead of provoking this either or dualistic thinking, it makes it a little bit easier for the listener to listen, instead of picking a side or picking a position, but getting at more of the underlying needs that are there. From a listener's perspective, it's more into the
Oops, I
heart.
just lost your
Can you say the last sentence
Yeah.
again? We lost your voice just for the last sentence.
Oh, it gets out of your head and more into your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for widening our perspective and the questions that we might ask, and reminding us of one of the things we covered 2 weeks ago is this two different paradigms. One is who's right and who's wrong. That's the domination system paradigm. And the second question is, what would make life more wonderful? And so what happens if you look at this problem through the lens of what would make life more wonderful from now on, in the instant that this problem emerges for you? I don't know if that shifts it for anybody, but Barb, go ahead.
Hi, thanks. So initially, I was trying to really focus on what to do, what I would do, listening to the other person. But what I found is that the exercise, and during that, I actually found that I had a reaction to tossing the fat man over the bridge, like even just as a possibility. Like, I was so offended by that. Like, so I was having a reaction, and so there was some, I don't know if you want to call it adrenaline, but there was something happening in me. So I was trying to pay attention to that. And also, the idea of killing people or being responsible for that in some way was adrenaline pumping or whatever. But what I appreciated was that your direction around just listen. There was something nice about, okay, I've been given the direction just to listen. The other person knows my role is just to listen. That's, I don't have to try and navigate some social etiquette that maybe I'm not comfortable with. And allowing the other person just to talk. It was really interesting. I really felt like I saw them and I was getting to know them, and things came up that I don't think would have come up. I have a tendency to kind of jump in and be like, yeah, this happened and all that kind of stuff. And to me, and listen, I can connect with you because I have a shared similar experience. This prevented all that. And so I know it's a common practice in NVC to do these kinds of things where you're just listening, but it never gets old. Like, the impact on me is still, it's tremendously effective. and I still struggle to incorporate that into communication with people on a daily basis, but I appreciated the exercise, so thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Thank you. 2 more, and then we'll do the next practice. Auntie?
Yeah, like Barb, I think it was just the nature of the video that to me was a little shocking. There were some things that I really resonated with. I thought that the way that the person who was in a leadership role was interfacing with the students, his manner was just really delightful, and I was really intrigued by the, the way that they were using their minds. But then it brought up this whole thing for me of classism and privilege, and sort of like the sorrow of people who don't have that opportunity for education. And then when he chose to use as an example a fat person and they all laughed, I thought, well, here they're developing their minds, but where is their heart and where is their compassion? Where is the heart? Where is the compassion? What is the point of this exercise if there's no heart and there's no compassion? And then I just found the example and the way that it was presented, and not presented in a way the earlier speaker to have a creative problem solving, that you only have an either or that ends in death, is just not the type of thinking that to me I feel is useful. And then I thought what I was really intrigued by is usually I can talk, but something has been shifting of late, and it was difficult for me to talk for 7 minutes, but it was an absolute joy to listen for 7 minutes, and also to listen to somebody from a different culture, and to be self-aware that I have lenses that may make it difficult to maybe understand because someone is from a different culture. And that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you. Umesh?
Yeah, so I have listened to this video in past, because I was doing some course on ethics and this on Coursera, and listening to that again, different opinions and philosophers' opinion, that was another thing. But being put in the spot to answer the question, it was kind of quite difficult. I didn't want to do it, okay. And then there was another thing that it was like, for that moment, you have been playing God. Okay, you have been forced to play God now. Okay, and that's pretty scary. Okay, whether it is playing God or are you actually the victim? Okay, and then it was like, okay, regardless of what choice you make, okay, it is haunted. Okay, being haunted by that choice, okay, for the rest of your life. Okay, and that's what was coming alive for me. Okay, okay, doesn't matter. And of course, there is the problem has been purposely given. Okay, that is all random. There's no. This all 6 people are equal, and then there was another. So you don't have really anything to go by. Okay, anything else to rationalize your choices. Okay, to say. So, and there was another thing. Okay, which was the amount of effort that you put in. Okay, I think that was so if it is like button click. Okay, a thought. Maybe you can look at it just straight thought. Okay, thought does it. Okay, versus you have to really physically do it and put a lot of effort. Okay, and that's what makes it different. And ultimately, while I feel given the situation, you'll go by the majority, but most people. Okay, but still, after the choice, also, regardless of what choice you make, you'll be haunted. Okay.
Thank you, Umesh. One of the things I loved about Michael's as a teacher, he didn't make anybody wrong. He questioned and he pushed and he asked for clarity, but I didn't get the sense of any moral judgment coming from him, even though he had some clarity about maybe what was going on, because he knows what's going to happen next in this video, which we're not going to watch any more of today. But I did put the link into the chat, and it will also be in the notes for the class that go into the classroom. So thank you all for your sharing and for enduring this. and for trying the exercise of speaking and listening. If there's only one thing you take away from the whole 37 weeks of the class that we've been in so far, is the power of just that, of this exercise of setting the intention to just listen to somebody in pain without trying to do anything about it, but just to be present. So it's a very powerful response.
Right. The willingness to let people be just as they are.
Yeah. So here's the next exercise. This time, let me just talk about the roles because they're just a little bit different. Speaker again will have 7 minutes to speak. But this time the listener is going to listen with empathy again. And if there's a request that the speaker makes, of course, you're free to choose whether or not to fulfill the request. But also, if you have an intuition, like a request grows on the inside of you to acknowledge the other person's experience, then follow that and see what happens with a focus on observations and feelings, not on needs for this exercise. Just focus on observations and feelings that you might hear from the other person.
And not your thoughts and beliefs about it or whatever's coming alive in you, but just the listening and the response of reflection.
And so here's the prompt. Several years ago, inspired by Elon Musk's vision for electric vehicles and solar energy, you made a small investment in Tesla, this company. It has gone up in value significantly. But now he has aligned himself with a political point of view that does not conform with your values, although the company continues to work on solar energy products that do align with your values. So the moral dilemma is, do you sell your stock? If you do decide to sell your stock, you can reinvest the money in another way more in line with your values, but you're going to pay taxes. And those taxes, you realize, will go to support the military-industrial complex, because that's what a lot of our tax money does, at least here in the United States. So what do you do? That's the moral dilemma that you're going to be processing in the presence of empathy. If that one doesn't sound like fun, you can do the alternative prompt, which is you owed a friend money and you paid it back, but they have not cashed the check. 6 months have passed. What do you do? So that's a little bit simpler problem, but in a way they create the same moral dilemma for you. I will put this into the chat.
There you go.
And then you'll go and be gone again for 15 minutes. We'll send you the request to switch after 7 minutes. Whenever you're
Jim,
ready.
can you please repeat it again? Please, please.
Yeah, I put it into the chat.
Okay.
Okay, does that work?
Yes.
Now comes my favorite time of any class, and that's to hear from you about how this exercise supported you. Especially, I'd like to talk first to the people who were speakers. Everybody got to be a speaker at some point. But if you were a speaker and someone acknowledged your experience, what was that like for you? What did you notice about having your experience acknowledged? Anybody would like to share about that? Shren?
I feel very nourished, very, very nourished.
Well, I gotta leave and come back,
have
I
a-
guess. Okay, so leave here.
Oops. Here we go. Go ahead, Shwen.
Yeah, I have a lot of gratitude. It's just a two-person meet just for
I'm
Oops,
sorry, I silenced
you by mistake. I'm sorry. I wanted to silence the other.
Rewind 30 seconds and push play again.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you for letting me know. Since I did not notice. Yeah. Yeah, Rebecca, I feel very nourished. A lot of gratitude. How people can get connected just within this 15 minutes. And she said it just like a 2 little girl talking. That's really delight me. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your experience. Oliver?
Thank you guys so much. I feel wonderful. I feel enriched. I feel enlightened, enlivened to connect in a vulnerable way in a safe space, to be validated, seen, heard, held space with, empathized with, reformulated to. I've waited 40 years for this experience. I'm incredibly grateful, and I will be absolutely returning. So thank you.
Glad you had a wonderful experience, Oliver.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sounds really.
And thank you for being part of it.
Yeah. And Tanya?
Even though my internet is breaking up, my partner was incredibly kind and willing to listen to all the breaks, and so enjoy her energy and spirit. It was just such a pleasure. Oh, and I like being too.
I missed the last sentence. You like something else too.
Being heard.
Being heard. Thank you. And Auntie?
Yeah, it was really lovely to be witnessed and to be heard. And what was alive in the moment, I had arise this really deep pain, like a knife or a rock with blades in my heart. And the act of being heard, but also coupled with the act of listening, it just seemed to ease up and release. So I want to thank my very skilled partner for her deep poetry and her healing abilities as well.
Thank you. Someone else like to share what it was like to be the speaker and have your experience acknowledged? Yeah, Rob. You're still muted.
Yeah, it feels like a magic space because this person that I was in the group with, I had cherished as somebody that the empathy that I experienced previously went very deep. And here it was with her again. I haven't been here in 35 sessions, and just magic, and yeah, and we went off topic, but it was wonderful and nourishing and healing. And I feel in my body and present. So, and I appreciate this space so much. Thank you, Jim and Jori.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, and thank you all.
Anybody else want to share anything about being the speaker and having your experience acknowledged?
See another hand?
Yeah, Dominic.
Yes, yeah, I was in group with Dana. When I spoke 2 times, I always feel she has interest and curiosity to listen to me without any judgment. So, thank you, Dana.
Thanks,
Sweet.
Dominic.
Yeah, thank you both.
What about when you were the listener? What was different about having these clear intentions before listening? Did it shift anything in your experience as the listener? Yeah, Tanya.
Yeah,
For me, I was listening so intently, and especially because you had suggested to us to not focus on needs. So then I was really going, okay, so what's the observation? And what has this person just said that's their observation? And if I was hearing needs, I was like going, oh, so what is it that they're feeling? What might they be feeling if this is what they're needing? And yeah, so it was kind of like a reverse like empathy process that I really appreciated, because rather than my mind kind of like going to what's the needs word, is I was just listening, trying to get as much as I could to understand. Yeah, that's what it was. I was really wanting to understand their experience. Yeah, and I really appreciate that as an activity to learn that more deeply.
Nice. Thanks for sharing what it was like for you. Somebody else? Shwen.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, I feel like I could be even more present, fully present, can totally use my body to sense her. Because not need to worry or think how I needed to respond or how I needed to empathy her. Without that thoughts, I could totally just fully present. Actually can sense deeper. That's my experience.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Love to hear a few more voices. Time for a couple more.
There comes one.
Yeah,
Oliver.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, listening, empathetic listening, and I even had a chance to reformulate. This was medicinal. There was, I don't know, potentially a shift in consciousness where, well, because there was a barrier of dialect between the words being spoken and me hearing them, I had to put in extra effort to find empathy beyond the words that I could not hear. And when I did that, I picked up on some energies or an energetic experience that led me to the other person's needs, and that was really cool.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm still processing that, so I just wanted to express what was alive inside of me with that. Thank you for allowing me the platform. I'm grateful.
Glad you were
Thanks
here.
for sharing that.
Jeannie.
Thanks. For me, we were sharing our thinking a lot. And so that made it harder than usual for me to empathize with feelings. But just as when I'm speaking a foreign language and I can't think of the word that I want in the foreign language I'm trying to speak, but it'll come to me in some other foreign language that I learned in high school. The needs were popping up for me that way. And that was interesting. And then I felt like, well, the rule says don't go there. And so sometimes it's really nice to have the freedom of not having to figure out the but this time it kind of backfired for me and the kind of conversation that we were having.
Yeah.
But I thought, oh wow, I really can sometimes make some guesses for needs. Oh, it's not as hard as I always tell myself it is.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got out of your own way in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Got time for another one or two? I'll just expand the question out. What's your takeaway? What are you taking away from the class today that you think might make your life more wonderful from now on? What are you taking away from the class today? Cecilia.
Yeah, I think it was really nice to be heard in a place of a dilemma, not having not having a request for myself, for others, just hanging in there in that tension within myself. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be heard and just coming out of that with the sense it's okay. You know, I don't need to suffer as much as I do when I am in that space. It's okay to be there. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice.
And we'll finish up with Barbara today.
Oh my gosh.
You finally get the final.
Sounds like responsibility. I really liked being the listener with the opportunity to just open my heart and listen and not have to think about a response. And I think if I could do that more in my life, it would make my life a lot better.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so we will be back next week and we'll be celebrating gratitude with you. And we'll do the third and final exercise that we didn't do today. We'll weave that in to what we'll do next week with gratitude, and which I'm full of right now. I really appreciate everyone chipping in your voice and helping me to save mine, including you, of course. And I'm grateful for the resources that we have available in the 21st century to hang out together, to go to Harvard for 10 minutes. And I noticed on the website, they have 2.5 million subscribers to their YouTube channel. And I know they don't have that many people that go to Harvard. So that's like an access dream come true, that people can actually get at least a taste of a Harvard education from the comfort of their own living room. As Michael is a very gifted trainer, teacher, and I'd like to be like him when I grow up. And how about you? How are you right now?
I am feeling a sense of gratitude, sense of camaraderie, you know, that sense of community that we're all kind of going in the same direction. And it's the direction that I would hope we would all be able to go into, where we're open and honest and sharing and receiving. So thank you.
And a special thanks to Alejandra, who's been helping out while Marta's been gone. So thank you for stretching in. It's 10 o'clock at night for you. So really appreciate you stretching to stay up late with us and support our class.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I was very impressed that you jumped right in and you were right on it. Thanks.
And I'll open up the after party. The after party is an opportunity to continue to hang out if you want to. I will put the link into the chat, and as soon as I get there, and then I'll go open it up. But the after party is just a chance to hang out. Jori and I aren't there, so it's self-directed, self-led. Usually there's just a few people there. And
that's an opportunity if you'd like to just chat a bit about what your experience was, or you just would like some more connection. Yeah.
So I'll put the link into the chat. There it is.
Boom.
Okay. And we'll see you next week.